Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 20th June 2016. I'm sorry for delay. I was traveling yesterday, so I was unable to give you the video on time today. So, the first article is related to the Raghuram Rajan strategic exit. Now, Raghuram Rajan as RBI governor has many things to his throne. What he did is this. What he did to the office. The first thing is, inflation targeting became the central point of the functioning of the monetary policy. There is a clear-cut emphasis for this from RBI. And obviously this is a bone of contention between Ministry of Finance and RBI. Finance Ministry tries to focus on growth and RBI tries to focus on inflation targeting. So in this context, the friction is natural. Raghuram Rajan in his own words said that if both of them are always agreed, then it is a situation for the people of the country to worry about. And second is, another friction area is about asset quality review, which Mr. Raghuram Rajan conducted to bring in the real situation of the banking finance in India. It is based on the stress tests which are conducted in West to understand the banks and their situation. So here in India, the natural problem is this. The good money is going after the bad money. For example, if I took the loan and if I am not paying that loan, so what the banks are doing is, they are providing the fresh loan on some expansion or something else, and out of that some part is being taken back to pay back the old loan. Because of this, the debt of the bank is increasing, but however, for that point of time, it appears that the debtor is paying the loan to the bank. So in this context, what I can say is the governor's action has averted a long-term crisis rather than in the short term it might feel a bit painful. So that's why Raghuram Rajan's stay in the office shall be remarkable, and another thing which he achieved is the stability of Indian rupee, and above all, as Indian Express says, he brought the credibility to the policy making process in India. And he has his personal credibility with the international investors, and finally his credibility has added to India's functioning of the financial institutions. Now coming to the cost of nuclear diplomacy. What is the context? India is buying 6 nuclear reactors from Westinghouse. These are of the type AP1000 variety. Now, if the existing costs of these nuclear reactors are observed, India is going to spend around 4 lakh crores on these 6 nuclear reactors. Now, by any standard, this price is very high. In spite of this, India is very much interested to get them. One of the reasons is India's chance of entering into NSD, that's what is indirectly said. So now let us see this. So if it is 4 lakh crores, for a unit of this, that is going to be 70 crores per megawatt. So in India, as of now, the established nuclear reactors, if we observe, it is around 10 crores per megawatt. So it is disproportionately high on the basis of price. Coming to the second thing, the safety perspective, India also has diluted its liability loss provisions to bring in this. And finally, if we observe, what are the alternative energy benefits or else carbon benefits we got? Normally the carbon, how much it is reduced and what is the cost of the carbon to the economy, that is called price of carbon. Generally it is decided in Europe as 2 rupees per kg. So even if you take this European standards, the renewable energies such as wind and sun, solar energy, they are much cheaper. So in this context, the cost paid by India to enter into the diplomatic engagement with the United States of America is very much higher. And added to that, the weapons which it is buying and the cost which it is paying. So everything, if we see, there is a deepening of engagement. But the Indian Express, it has called, is it like Dhritarashtra holding Bhima? It means that, is that going to this embrace of United States is going to weaken India? So these are the questions still remain. But coming to the nuclear energy, how far it is viable for India at this very huge price is a major question. Coming to the Brexit issue, You know that Brexit refers to London exit or UK's exit from European Union. Now, here let us see what is its impact on India. The first thing is, with regard to the Indian companies based in Europe, most of the Indian companies made UK as the base for their operations in the entire European Union. It means more and more curbs are imposed on the UK by European Union. They are going to inherently affect the Indian companies too. And Indian exports to the European Union gets affected. Our Indian companies based in UK and their exports to European Union can get affected. And the second thing is, already Britain has strongest visa norms. And the labor migration is one of the reasons for Brexit. So in this context, India and for Indians, the visas can become much stringent. So the business migration of the worker movements that can become much stringent. If you know that Britain is the only country that considers student visas as work visas too. And the next is, on the positive side, India and European Union free trade agreements, they are not moving forward one or the other issue. So in this case, it is also affecting the India's trade with UK. So if you take last year the mango exports, they did not, or else because of high European Union safety standards, the most of the mango exporters, they made a huge loss. So in this context, UK can become a greater opportunity for Indian exports once UK moves out of the European Union. These are the things. Coming to environmental impact assessment. Now let's know the context of it. The present government has brought in something called Environment Supplementary Plan. Let's take an example like this. Now you have a house, and on that a terrace, without any permission, you built a penthouse, or also an apartment, you built a penthouse. Now government initially do not give the permission. Whenever it needs money, what it does is, it passes for regularization of the same penthouse. So it is just an illegality is getting regularized at a cost of a price. This is what the government is going to do exactly now. So under the environmental impact assessment, 2006, there are certain procedures established. First, the opinion of the people, then an expert committee review, and then a decision has to be made on clearance to a project by the Ministry of Environment. So in this context, many of the clearances which are not stood to the conditions which are being placed. Now what the environmental ministry is going to do is, it's going to fix certain charges to them and to continue with that particular projects. So it means it is trying to regularize the illegitimacy or illegal act at a cost. Now in the environmental destruction, it is going to become a huge thing. So anyone can violate the law and pay certain price to it. So that's why the environmental supplementary plan, which has come through a notification to the amendment to the environmental impact assessment, is going to is against to the entire spirit of EIA itself. And coming to UGC, University Grants Commission was appointed or established under the UGC Act of 1956. It is a regulatory body consists of related to the higher education in India. So in this case, the quality of education has to be maintained by this agency, and at the same time approval of the curriculum, identification or permissions to the new universities, accreditation and permission to start the courses, everything comes under the UGC. Now if you see many of the deemed universities in India, they do not consist of proper quality. So let's talk about the recommendations of various committees. The first one is National Knowledge Commission. Another one is Eshpal Committee. After the TSR Subramanian Committee. So let's take the Eshpal Committee recommendation, which is very clear. So to bring in the greater coordination in higher education and to club the education and research, we have to bring in All India Council for Higher and Technical Education. So it has to be one single regulatory body. And then it also recommended that technical colleges shall be able to take humanities education, humanities colleges shall be able to take technical education too. That brings in synergies. And coming to Subramanian Committee, what it said is, if possible, UGC has to be scrapped. If not, it has to be made leaner and thinner. And its legitimacy is under question as the quality of higher education is decreasing in India. So, in this case, it also pointed out to the deficit of number of personnel functioning at the UGC. So, this is what are these are the recommendations. India is seeing its eyes to enter into NSG. Now, Jaishankar, the External Affairs Secretary, he made a visit to China, a secret visit. And finally, certain hope is coming up with regard to China supporting India. So here there is some jigglery of the words. What is being said is, China is not opposing India's entry into NSG. It is only talking about a process for members to enter into NSG. Whatever be the case. So it's been, there appears a confidence on Indian side that China will not be a last member to break the consensus of India's entry into NSG. India also said it is not going to apply or oppose the Pakistan entry into NSG, but however it requested the members to judge on the basis of merit. It judged the history based on the history, non-proliferation history of different countries. Now coming to farm incomes. Now government is repeatedly talking about the doubling of farmer incomes in 5 years. Here there is farm incomes, is this nominal income or real income? So if nominal income, if we take from 2002 2003 to 2012 13 years if they are compared, so it took 6 years for the nominal incomes to get doubled. If you take the real incomes, they took 20 years. So if the government is talking about nominal incomes, it's not a big task to achieve for. But if it is the real incomes, as there is a lot of effort to be done. And the second thing, what are the sources of the income for the farmers over these 20 years? You know, most of the Indian farmers are marginal and small farmers. For them, majority of the source of income is coming from non-farm sources, especially animal rearing, and also wages. So in this context, the major focus has to be towards them. So you need to develop or else you need to increase the wages and also the income through the animal husbandry and other things. And coming to the farm income, we need to raise the productivity. We need to diversify the crop into high yielding areas. And finally, we need to provide for increased farmers' attention to technology. Now, this government has taken a series of steps. Few of them are good and few of them did not really materialize, but let's revise them. You know that Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, E-NAM, National Agricultural Market, and then it is talking about drip irrigation. So, there are certain steps which are being taken by this government, the soil health cards and all these things. But still there is a lot to be done if you want to raise the real incomes of the farmers. And his voyage to America. So it talks about, that's what is the American embrace of India, to what extent it can help India in the long run. But however, I dismiss this article. It's more about the politics rather than the real thing. The exit questions of Raghuram Rajan. So now, how sensitive is this government to the criticism of intellectuals? Because Raghuram Rajan is very plain in giving his stand and certain, I'm using a very wrong word over here, but I want to use that, maniacs, such as, I don't want to mention even that idiot's name. So they have questioned his credentials, nationalistic credentials. And nationalism today has become a big drama to question every intellectual. So whatever be the case. So in this context, the Raghuram Rajan's exit, it can pose a serious questions to the credibility of our policy. Now, scared of students, the TSR Subramanian Committee, it stated that the students shall be kept out of our campuses shall be kept out of the politics, and student organizations based on caste and religions shall not be allowed for. Now, in this context, the students, they have to bring a new perspective and a dimension to ongoing debate. And the caste and religion, they are not outside the Indian society, or they are just part of the Indian society, and universities cannot be dissociated from them. So, The political activism of the students invariably leads to leadership qualities, and also it provides them an understanding of the atrocities, etc., oppression which is happening in Indian society. So it means a new emphasis on learning can come up through this particular associations, etc., in the universities. These are the articles for today. Thank you very much.